Oh my goodness, it's wonderful to see all of your lovely faces. Again, I'm Ty Heath, director and co-founder at LinkedIn's B2B Institute think tank, where we're on a mission to build famous B2B brands, and I'm thrilled to be the host for this conversation today. We'll meet our panelists in just a second, but let me first say my pronouns are she, her, and I'm wearing a red tube top and matching pants. Got some buttons on there. And I have a bob. I heard the term Bobbiana thrown around a little bit, so I will gladly accept that, and I'm in my Bob era. Right, okay, thank you very much. And so this is finding your next through community, and just to set the stage a little bit, we have been on this journey. The flight of life has been a bit turbulent lately. So, we've been through these various economic challenges. We've all been navigating things at work. Maybe it's career changes. Maybe it's some things that are very real going on in our personal lives. Does anybody else relate? Yes. It sometimes feels like we have to compartmentalize things a little bit more than we've had to in the past. So we're focused on this, but we're like, what's that happening over there? So this conversation is all about how you move through that change and how you find your compass through community. So let's unpack that. We'll meet our panel right now. So why don't we start with you, Rosanna? So briefly, tell us about yourself, and also your look for today. Describe your look as well.
Got it. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rosanna Duruthi, Vice President of Belonging and Employee Experience at LinkedIn.
Woo!
My pronouns are she, her, ella. I have silver hair, brown skin, gold silk blouse with fairly baggy pants that have teal, a little gold and black in them. It's a pleasure to be with you all.
Lovely.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jade Powell. I am a social media strategist and creator. And now, your new favorite LinkedIn influencer. Please follow me. I post a lot about marketing, social media strategy, and entrepreneurship, or I'll call it creatorpreneurship. And today, I am rocking some very fabulous purple braids, which is my signature. And I'm going for like a, I would say, 80s anti-corporate, but corporate hot girl vibe.
Okay.
How do I even follow that? Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley Lumax. I'm Executive Director of Talent and Cultural Partnerships at JP Morgan Chase. I am wearing a really fly Art Comes First suit, all black. I'm wearing a shirt that says Get On, Put On. More on that later. Happy to be here. I wish I could see you guys.
I was thinking the same thing. We can't see any of you. What's up, everybody? Dave Roeder. I am 2 months into a new role at LinkedIn. We're ahead of our global agency and video team. It's nice to be here with everybody. I have graying hair. It seems like it's getting grayer every morning, which is cool. I've glasses on because I can't see very well anymore, and I've got the same off-white t-shirt, bomber jacket, and black pants that I pretty much wear every day. So it's good to be here.
Nice, nice. Well, welcome to everyone. Let's set the stage with this first question. And I'm just curious to hear from each of you, what does this moment feel like for you, professionally, personally? And if you've been feeling stuck or perhaps challenged right now, tell us about something that's helped you get through. So why don't we start with you?
If you're starting with me, this moment feels very kaleidoscopic. A moment of change and transformation. It's happening quickly. It's discerning and trying to imagine a future that is different from the uncertainty of this space that we're navigating. It's also a moment that I find incredibly exciting and very invigorating. The act of disruption, for me, represents the moment of creation. And I think as inherent creators, we have such potential and such possibility in this moment. And listening to, Sharon Jakes this morning, like, this is our moment. And so I'm excited.
All right.
Very similarly, I feel like I would say the moment is opportune. I feel like there's so much of the pie that we have access to, even though we may not feel like we necessarily deserve a slice or can get a slice. But one of the things that I've been really modeling this year is the art of doing it scared. Like, even before I walked on stage, I was crying, throwing up in the corner, practically. And I'm here anyway. And I feel like that really speaks to the fact that if you are very focused on just shooting your shot, going after the opportunities that you desire, even if it doesn't feel like the most safe or something that you're very comfortable with, it can lead you to opportunities that would be very fruitful for you.
Amazing. Stan?
So I'm a kid from Plainfield, New Jersey, small town in New Jersey, and here I am in Orlando, Florida at ADCOLOR, and not just the stage, the main stage, right? So I think one of the things I always try to remind myself is you're supposed to be here. You're definitely supposed to be here. You're here for a reason. And I think one of the things that keeps me going is thinking about the generation after me. I didn't necessarily have a ton of people that were directing me into this direction. I definitely had mentors, but I had to get there. So all of this insight, wisdom, knowledge that I've been able to gain, my goal is to pass it on to the next generation so that they don't have to go through, there's a Hove quote for everything, right? Hove did that so you wouldn't have to go through that. And then in terms of things that just keep me going, right? Like really simple, community, which we're here to talk about, and Bible app, it works.
Let's see. I mean, it's half terrifying and half just opportunity. That's the word that keeps coming up. I'll say I thought that the chairman, it was amazing this morning. Like the talk was so inspiring. The part about the playing field, the keys. I walked off and I opened up my phone. I'm a Giants football fan. It's terrible for any Giants football fans that are out there too. And we've got quarterback issues, and Jameis Winston's going to QB this week. And I opened up a tweet from him or an X from him. I don't know what you call it, but he said they fired the coach and they handed me the keys. I'm about to drive this team like I stole it. And I don't know. I thought that was like kind of cool. It was random, and it was as if he met with as if he met with the chairman also. But I'm trying to look at this as an opportunity. It's pretty cool where we are right now in this technology and everything that's happening, and it's got to be a cool opportunity for us.
Yeah, lots of opportunity, courage, transformative moments. So let's continue this conversation. I'm going to come over to you, Stanley. So we had a chance to chat, and you shared about a moment in your career where body and spirit told you a role you were in wasn't quite right for you. And I want you to take us into that space, what that misalignment felt like, and when you finally named it, what did you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, again, for me, I look at every opportunity as a moment of gaining wisdom, and I went through a stage where I wanted to try something new, and I justified it in my head, and it was misaligned from day one, right? You know things are bad when you have a conversation with a friend and you explain your first day of work, and they're like, oh yeah, you made the wrong decision. like not even trying to hide it.
Oh.
Nah, you messed this one up. And then also just like sitting in my first meeting, I'm supposed to be the CMO of a company, and I sit in my first marketing meeting, and everyone on my team is high-fiving each other, and I'm like, that's a horrible idea. So like there was just misalignment across the board. But again, I think all of us are put on the road for the specific journey that God has laid out for us. So we go through things, right? And the thing I was able to take away from all of this pain and just this misalignment was literally the last day I was at this job. I was laying in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what was next. And these three words just kept popping into my head. I'm not making this up, right? Passion, patience, and peace. And immediately I knew why these words were in my head, right? Passion, I realized I wasn't passionate about this job. And for me to succeed, for me to be great, I need to be passionate about what I'm doing. And then I thought about patience, and I thought about the reality of patience is always the hardest thing, but it's also the thing that keeps you ready for what's meant for you. And then also peace. Really, really big lesson around peace. And I think the lesson for me was you don't know how important it is until you don't have it. And I had no peace at this job. So, leaving this job gave me immediate, like literally the day I left that job, I had my peace back. And it put me in a position where I was ready for the next thing. And it's a lesson that I hold close to me because, it's funny we're on this panel with all these awesome people from LinkedIn, but at one point when I got the job at JP Morgan Chase, I thought about my path, and I thought about the fact that here I am in a place where I have a great job, I love what I'm doing, but I know what it's like not to have a job and not to love what I'm doing. And all of us go through that sort of up and down, right? No matter how great you are, you've been there. And I think it's important for us to remember the feeling of not loving what you do or not being aligned with your career. Because there's tons of people out there that need wisdom, they need guidance, they need a conversation. And I'm always willing to have that conversation because, again, I know what it's like to be there. And I think, as we talk about community, that's a big piece of the importance of having a community.
Thank you for sharing that. And I love that you have passion, what is it?
Passion,
patience, peace in your LinkedIn profile. I was intrigued by that when I saw it. Thank you for sharing. Jade, so we're going to come over to you. So you've built this incredible presence on the briefcase app, LinkedIn. That's, she coined that, not me. And created incredible community through your creator, T-Talk. I'm curious about the transition moment, because you moved from corporate to what you're doing now. And how did you not get paralyzed by that uncertainty? I imagine other people are thinking about that or perhaps are moving into that now.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I used to have a lot of shame around this until I started going to therapy. Highly recommend. In my corporate career, I had 5 different jobs over the span of 6 or 7 years, and I quit each one back to back, hoping that every time I would go into a new role that I would be happier or the experience I was having would be better, and it just wasn't happening. So I think there was something in my brain where I was like, why is this not working for me? I had the jobs that people wanted. I'm from Atlanta, y'all. Shout out to the A. Period. And I worked at Delta, which is an org. If you live in Atlanta, everybody wants to work at Delta. And I remember when I decided to leave, everyone was like, I can't believe you would do that. Why? What are you gonna do now? And I think for me, I was just like, I want to make sure that I wake up every morning and feel enthusiastic about the work that I'm doing. Work takes up so much of our time, and it's so intertwined with our personal lives. I know we talk a lot about work-life balance, but we can't deny the fact that we're usually working 40 to 60, some people 80 hours a week. Work takes up a lot of our time. And I think it was really much a struggle for me going from job to job and feeling like I'm just not finding fulfillment here. So there was this moment when I was in my last role. I was the head of social at this beverage brand based out in San Francisco. And I remember I was talking to one of my coworkers. We were on a late night call. And she was just like, you don't really seem happy. And I'm like, I'm not, bitch. What are we, obviously. Thank you for pointing that out. But I was willing to sit in that because I thought that was what I was supposed to do. And I think there was this light switch moment for me where I was just like, you really need to start living your life in a way that makes you feel happy. So I now often say that my KPI is joy, and I'm able to have that as my focus in my life because I was able to make a mindset shift. It wasn't worth it for me to stay in environments that didn't serve a purpose or fuel me or make me excited every single day. So when I decided to go into full-time entrepreneurship, I was like, I don't care how scary this is. I don't care that I only have a month of savings. I'm just going to operate on vibes and see what happens. And it's been working out for me ever since. Hallelujah. Amen.
There we go. Thank you, Jade. I appreciate the realness, and we're going to continue that. So this is a very real topic here. So Rosanna, 300,000 Black women have been laid off, and we continue to be impacted. So we had a conversation about this in our prep talk, and you talked about fear versus faith. And I would love for you to share what you shared with the audience there. And there's already heavy lifting in this time. So how do we move through this?
So first, I want to applaud your vibe coding. That's a very different version. This morning we heard from Chairman Jakes, and I thought he might have gotten a glimpse into this conversation.
Perhaps.
Yes, 300,000 black women at the front of the line in some of the disintermediation that we see in this moment. It's not all AI related. Some of it is economic. Some of it is related to concerns or consequences around environment, social policy, economic policy, a whole host of things. And shock and awe, is it a surprise that those who finally got an opportunity to get in are the first ones escorted out? No, not really. And we're more than the moment. And I think what's really powerful is there are very few moments in society that are jarred in the way this moment is. The last 2 years, the conversation around AI has been around productivity and efficiency, but the real magic of AI is none of those things. It's how it's going to be able to do the things that we really don't want to do. It's how it augments our talents. It's how it enables us to amplify in a different way. And I always think if we imagine history, and I thought it was so prescient to reference Madam C.J. Walker. Like, we have had the entrepreneurial spirit and DNA across our communities for so long. Most of us come from people who had to have their own businesses or side hustle, whether it was related to where they came from or where they live, whether you're the child of an immigrant or whether you're 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th generation here, but always had to find a way to create more for your family. And I just think this is a moment where there's a unification of spirit and potential and opportunity, because the beauty of this moment is no one's ahead of us. No one's ahead of anyone in reality here. We are all drinking from the fire hose with the opportunity to learn at the same time. And AI is not something you teach people. AI is something you have to personally experience. AI is what's going to train you, and you're going to train it. And so in that context, there are 300,000 women who may have gotten their freedom prematurely, but let's not miss this opportunity to learn, to teach ourselves. It may mean a couple fewer lattes in the course of a month to pay for the ChatGPT Pro subscription, because it's $20 a month. That's okay. But this is the moment to invest in ourselves. This is the moment to invest in our imagination. This is the moment to invest in our potential. And sometimes the universe just gives us a nudge. We've seen this act before, but what's different about this moment is we have the opportunity to be at the front of this dynamically moving picture, to see the picture, to create the picture, to create businesses and to create ideas and to create and leverage the very communities that we not only come from, but the very communities we're building on networks like LinkedIn, where our ideas don't have to fall in silence, where the future is about collaboration. So who are you playing with? Who are you creating with? Who are you sharing and exchanging ideas with? And it's such a unique moment when I think about how we come from very communal cultures. I sometimes get teased by my team. I'm married. I have a 14-year-old son. I have a 32-year-old daughter. I have 7- and 8-year-old granddaughters and a son-in-law. Any given time, I come home from a business trip, I walk into my house, I have no idea how many people are going to be in my house. I've got in-laws who are visiting, I have friends who come and they stay, they don't necessarily have an exit date, It's just like there's constant flow, but I think about that, and there are times when I think, gosh, I just wish it were quiet, and then I think, this is what community looks like. Yeah. Like, we have people in our lives for a reason. And I think, as Chairman Jake said, let's just make sure they're people with the keys. Like, that they pour into us the way we pour into them. And yes, we're always going to help each other, and we're always going to support each other, but make sure that that goes both ways, that we're not being drained of our talents, our ideas, our energy, such that we don't have enough to fulfill ourselves. We've always got. The question is, do we have enough to take care of ourselves and prioritize the potential we possess first? And if we're not doing that, that's a course alignment that we need to engage in.
Oh, thank you, Rosanna. I think powerful framing for all of us to step into that opportunity. Thank you. Dave, I'm going to come over to you as we are trying to cover all the ground here. We opened up by also naming very personal and real challenges that people are working through, even as we navigate all of this. And, you know, I mean, to the point you just made, a lot of us feel like we have to have it all together, and maybe we don't reach out when we could be, or maybe we're not taking care of ourselves the way we could be. But how are you learning to take action even when you don't have it all figured out? Like, what have you learned about leadership when maybe things aren't going perfectly in your personal life?
Yeah, I say this a lot on LinkedIn, of course, but elsewhere. You know, there's the simple notion that it's okay to not be okay. I'm very open about mental health and my struggles, like super open. I haven't always been. So this is like maybe the last 5 to 7 years where I've really gotten comfortable talking about OCD, which is what I've struggled with my entire life. But I sort of probably spent the first like 40 plus years of my life just trying to pretend like there was nothing wrong and I was perfect and, you know, there's nothing to worry about. I found myself, I had a very cool job a few years ago. I worked for a sports content company, and part of that, we got to spend a lot of time with some great professional athletes that, you know, 10 years ago started publicly talking about mental health and being vulnerable and being open. And I'm sitting around the office, and I hadn't talked to my wife, I hadn't talked to my parents, I hadn't told anybody. Now I find myself talking to a couple of athletes that I had never known before, telling them like all my crazy dark secrets about what OCD is doing to my brain and my intrusive thoughts. And, you know, they said, you got to go out and talk about this. Like, go talk. And, you know, my answer was, no, I'm going to get fired. Like, if I open up my mouth about any of this, it's over. There's no, you know, someone's going to walk me back out of here. And but they were right, and I think we've seen now. Thankfully, there are a lot of people that are talking and being open and being vulnerable, and for me, that's part of the key. Is like everybody's going through something. We have to know that in all the conversations we're having, we're all going through it. Some better, some worse at any given point in time. But I think we as leaders have an opportunity to lead from like the front with the heart and be empathetic. And just go in with that mindset of, you know, again, that vulnerable perspective. And so I'm going to continue to do it. I appreciate everybody else that's doing it because I really think the world, and frankly, our children will be better for it. I see this. I've got 2 daughters who are growing up now. They're 14 and 16. And I see it in their circle of friendships. You know, we didn't talk about these things growing up. They're talking about it now. They're open about it now. And so for me, it gives me a lot of hope that we're going to head to a place where it's pretty commonplace to have and talk about your feelings, especially men who we don't talk about our feelings.
Need y'all to do that more.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing it. It definitely creates the space for other people to see themselves in you and open up as well. Thank you for that. So, Stanley, we're going to come back to you. And you have created something called the African Chop House. So some of you may know about it, but it's amazing. So I want to share a little bit about that. But it's not just a networking group, it's an actual community. So we're talking about community here. But what's the difference between networking and community? And when someone's trying to figure out their next move, how does a community help?
Yeah, I think the big difference between networking and community is something, is a group of people that should be holding each other accountable. You know, you can go into a room and network and leave and grab business cards or bump your phones or whatever people are doing these days, and nothing comes out of it. But I think within a community, you should definitely be holding each other accountable, and you should be checking up on each other. You should be, you know, you should know what's going on in your community, right? Like if you think about where you live, you know what's going on your street, you know what I mean? Like you know what's going on in your home, in your family. And I think any community that you are a part of, that should just be, you know, rule number one. Like, what's going on? How can I help? Who needs help? You know, what are the values that we want to, collectively have? How do we make sure that everyone's in a good place? How do we check in on people? I'm notorious for randomly texting people and just asking, "You good?" And I think like that's just something that we all should do, because I think one of the things that I've also realized is you take for granted what people are carrying. You know what I mean? You go into work and people take for granted that we're human beings, and not only do we have to get this presentation done, but we also have kids, we have ailing parents, we have all of these different things that on any given day might make us go in a bathroom and punch a wall or cry or whatever it is that we need to do. So I think like for me, community is always something that keeps me on my toes, but also keeps me accountable to the people that are within that community. If you're in a group chat, right, it shouldn't just be all jokes. It should also be moments of checking in with each other to make sure that everybody's good.
Thank you for that. And Jade, so to come to you now, the creator economy is another type of community that's rapidly growing. And, there's a place we're moving, which is beyond the sort of hustle culture conversation, because I think that's been a dominant conversation for some time, to this space of needing to tap into community. So how are you seeing this creator economy grow, and how are you taking it week to week and moving beyond the hustle culture type framing?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I kind of stepped into my creatorpreneur journey, one of the things I felt like people would often ask me was, how are you scaling your business? I'm like, I don't know, y'all, vibes. I'm just going with the flow right now. And it's not to say that like I don't want to make money and I don't want to have a lot of successful moments for my business. I definitely do. But I think for me, I've always been focused on sustainable growth rather than fast growth. And I know that we live in a society that has us kind of like on this hamster wheel. We're always moving, we're always chasing after the next thing, especially in social media, where you're constantly having to move at the speed of social. You're constantly having to stay on top of new trends, posting every single day, whatever those expectations are. And as someone who has built a lot of community online, I feel like the most magical moments have come when we're actually meeting together in real life. Even just recently, I hosted an event with over 125 creators in Atlanta, and it was actually a mental health event. And it was so amazing to witness, because in that room, so many people were forthcoming about their experiences with mental health and just their struggles as a creator. So I think as I continue to build community, I'm always thinking, okay, how can I pour back into my people in the same way they pour back into me? And week over week, I think about how, for me, it's just the ability to reach out to people within my community and say, hey, I need help with this. And I know that's really hard for a lot of us to do, ask for help. But it's like a muscle that needs to be exercised. I think the more you ask for help, the more you get comfortable doing it, and you see how willing people are to help. One of the things that's been beautiful about the community I've built, I think about the couple of like creator friends that I have in my network, there's been times where I'm like, I'm not feeling so great about this content. Can I just get your POV real quick? Or even just like, I feel like this brand is lowballing me. Can we talk about like what you would charge? Like having access to that is so invaluable to me. So I feel like the least I can do is make sure that I'm showing up to these relationships with reciprocity. That's something that Lauryn Hill taught me, reciprocity.
Reciprocity. That's right. That's pouring into your community. So I'm going to go to David and Rosanna to touch on, we're going to talk about AI. We've got to talk about AI a little bit more. But Dave, you're the steward of a community of agencies, the world of agencies now. And everyone's trying to figure out what's next in this AI world. So when someone's trying to shift their approach or doesn't know where to start, and I know you're just 2 months, you said 2 months into this, into this new role, what's the conversation you have?
I'm going to get to that, but just real quick on the mental health. I think it's relevant. I work with a nonprofit. It's called Active Minds, and and they're all about college students. So they're all about helping college students. And one of the frameworks that they use, it's an acronym. It's ASK, and the A is about when you do come and open up. The A is about acknowledging, right? People want you to acknowledge that what they're saying is true, validate their feelings. The S is support, provide support. You know, have an idea of what you can do to provide an answer and support that individual. And the K is keep in touch, to your point. It's don't lose sight. Now, you had this conversation, don't let it go. Like, follow back up a week later with a simple, are you okay? You okay? You don't even need the R. But just keep it simple. I just wanted to throw that out. I apply that and I love it. And I think it's great for the college kids, but I think it could be helpful for all of us.
Thank you.
On your question, look, you guys said it before. I think we're at that point now where we just have to be leaning into it in every aspect of our jobs. It's not a question of when do I apply AI. I think it's a question of how do I apply it to what I'm doing at the moment. I go back. I was I think the luckiest I probably got in my career. I was a cable TV media buyer at the very beginning of my career, and I was at the place called The Media Edge. And then somebody decided to launch the Digital Edge, which was one of the first internet advertising agencies. And I was 24. And I just said, I'll try this. I'll jump in. And it was a few years of just trying and is Lycos going to win? I thought Ask Jeeves was going to beat Google. Shows you what I know. But it was that moment, and I kind of think we're a little bit back there, except this is bigger. Like, this feels much bigger than it was back then, and that was like foundationally the internet changing a lot of our lives. And so I just think we have to lean in in every aspect of our life. And look, as leaders, and I talk a lot about we got to obviously drive success, but I don't think we talk about the failures enough. And so one of the things, and I haven't told my new team yet, so keep it here, but I want to find ways to to celebrate a failure here and there, because I think we can learn from the things that didn't go well. And I want people to take risks and take chances and to use AI in different ways. And it's not always going to work. And I think we have to, as leaders, be comfortable with that and sort of bring that culture into our orgs.
Completely agree. We'll keep it in this room. We'll try. So, Rosanna, back to you on this topic, because we know people are anxious about this. And so how do you shift from that fear of AI replacing you to having agency and learning how to use it?
You just jump in. And that jumping in, it's very interesting. It has different components. It's the work that you can do, but it's also the work you don't have to do by yourself. Community is a beautiful word. Community evokes choice. Community evokes not going it alone, and community evokes people to play with. And sometimes we lose sight of the fact that we do some of our best work with people we get to play with. In those spaces where the people you're working with aren't just colleagues, but they're friends, or the community that you play with is doing things that create the potential for something new, it inspires. You go in and you're not paranoid about getting it wrong. To Dave's point, sometimes we're paralyzed by failure. And if we don't try, it's because we're afraid to fail, not because we're getting anything wrong. And what's fascinating about AI is AI doesn't always get it right. So in order for AI to work effectively, its magic is in humans. As humans, we bring discernment, we bring judgment, we bring context, we bring experiences. AI has none of that. AI has knowledge, but knowledge by itself can be dangerous, if not mistaken and misleading. And so what we do for ourselves, what we do with community, is actually invigorate capabilities that AI could never have by itself, while AI helps in doing things that we either don't really know how to do well, don't want to do because we don't have to do it because AI can do it, or that AI helps us do it better. So when I think of, this moment, it is a moment to engage in with community. It's kind of like grab someone, do it with them. We had a session a couple of months ago back at LinkedIn on belonging and what it is to belong in a human plus world. Well, the first thing a human plus world challenges us to do is not only learn how to operate with AI, it also challenges us to be more human, to be more compassionate and understanding, to recognize that there are qualities about being human that still fuel and inspire the work to be done. While the AI is doing all that other work, we're freed up to imagine and to create and to build things we would have never dreamed of before because we felt we just didn't know how and we couldn't and we didn't have the resources. And as we think about this human plus world that we begin to navigate, it calls forth this important acknowledgement of not only who we are, but how we create with others. What are you doing with your kids? Are you teaching them how to use AI? It's not cheating. It's a way of learning. It's a way of fueling the mind. It's a way of creating something that we've only aspired to have. And what are you doing with your parents and aunts and uncles? Have you taught them how to use, ChatGPT and be able to become more self-sufficient and in tune with the world? This is a new tool for us. It doesn't replace us. It complements our capabilities. And inside of community, it creates unprecedented potential because it removes a lot of the barriers and the friction that our communities have always had when they've set out to do something different or something new. It has an amazing power to equalize resources as well. And so as leaders in our communities, as leaders in our personal lives, this moment of AI is the unprecedented moment where we get to dream really, really big and create something we wouldn't have imagined before because we didn't have that tool and we needed someone's permission. The only permission we need at this moment is our own. And that's a really powerful place to be.
That is powerful. And so let's continue to talk about collaboration. And I'm going to come to you, Stanley, about this one because this conversation, in this conversation, you talk about stories that push the culture forward. And my question is, how do you invite others into that conversation in a way that's collaborative but not extractive as you're working with them?
I think leaving the door open for others to want to collaborate, right? Like I may not always invite you, but I think if you're passionate about something, you'll inquire. I don't know, I can't see out there, but I think Alexis, who's on my team at JP Morgan Chase, is someone that we worked on totally different teams. I was on the brand team, she was on the business team, and we immediately connected over our love of basketball, right? And here we are now on the sports and entertainment team, and I feel like we connected immediately because we had a passion for something that moved the needle at our company. And I think one of the benefits or one of the blessings of my new team is the fact that there are all these really passionate people of all ages that want to create new things, right? We want to move this big bank into this new world of leveraging culture to move our bottom line. And I think that passion is what brings us together for collaboration. And so far everyone's been really willing to collaborate, and I think that is helping build a spirit and a culture within our company that has set the tone in terms of what works and what we all feel like is the right way to go. I mean, we just had an offsite and we talked a lot about family, right? And I think the idea of family and community are one and the same for me. And the two things I think about when I think about my family are being willing to go above and beyond for my family members, but also being able to have real conversations with them, right? Not everything is going to be, roses and apple pie, right? Sometimes you have to have those hard conversations, and I'd rather be surrounded by individuals that I can have those conversations with as opposed to not being able to communicate because of fear of them being offended or so on and so forth. So I think collaboration is a two-way street, and all the parties have to want to collaborate for it to work.
Absolutely. So showing up for each other, being a mirror for each other, but also being willing to have real conversations. Thank you for that. And Jade, let's talk to you about platform and community. So you've worked with a number of different brands, but let's talk about when you yourself need lifting, when you need support. How do you receive support and not just give it, right? Because I know that can be challenging for many of us.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a work in progress. I think
Okay.
it's something that I've been practicing more and more. I think when you're used to doing things alone, especially as a solopreneur, I think you get into this habit of just saying, I can get it done. But I think one of the things I quickly learned over time in growing my business is that just because I can doesn't mean I should. It doesn't matter how talented I am or, what I think I have the capacity for. And I think the beautiful thing that has come out of me getting more comfortable relying on my community is that it shows me that I don't have to do all this alone. And I'll give the example. Recently, I was talking to you all earlier about the event that I did in Atlanta. I had hosted a number of events with creators throughout the year, and I did the majority of them by myself. But this particular event, I co-hosted with two other creators or two other creator economy professionals. And it was so funny because in the process, I was just like, wow, this actually is making my life substantially easier. Like, why have I been trying to make my life so hard this whole time? But again, I think when you're just used to doing things a certain way, it's kind of hard to break out of that cycle. So to the point I was making earlier, I think, again, it's like a muscle that needs to be exercised. The more you do something, the more you get comfortable with it. So now I'm in a flow where I'm actually like, okay, before I start working on a project or decide to execute on something, who are the people that I can actually tap? And I think a part of that is also reframing the mindset of what it looks like to do this work. Yes, you may be a solopreneur, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to work alone all the time. Like my team is in this room somewhere in the dark that I can't see, and they're wonderful. And they're not my full-time employees, but they're still very much my team and help and support me get a lot of my work done. So that's something I'm still working towards. But the more I do it, the easier it gets.
I'm working on it too. It's challenging
Yeah.
to ask for help and to receive it.
Yeah.
So amazing, and we're all working on that. So my gosh, we're running shorter on time now, but I want to get to a question that I hope is going to leave everybody with some hope as we go forward here. So there's a hard truth that we have to acknowledge. There are folks looking for jobs that won't find a job as quickly as they need to. Some people will be pivoting away from careers they love. Some will face barriers that connection alone can't overcome. So when we talk about community being our compass, what do we say to those people? I just want to hear from each person here. What gives you hope as we move forward, and how can we all tap into that community to find our way through together? So Dave, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I guess, I was out of work at the beginning of the year, January, and so look, the community is everything. I thought a lot about. I never wanted to send a note to somebody that said, "Hey, I know we haven't spoken in 17 years, but I could really use your like." So I tried really hard, first of all, just throughout my life, is just to your point, like random notes. Hi, how you doing? Checking in. What's going on? That helped immensely. I don't know if Tiffany's in the room, but Tiff, thank you for always being there to talk. But that helped immensely. And I think, look, there's so many. Here's the cool news. There's so many people that are starting things that need advice, that need help, that need guidance, that I guarantee every single person in this room and outside of this room can provide value, if it's in a consulting capacity, if it's in a freelance, short-term, long-term helping capacity. So I think we're gonna see, while yes, the job market may continue to be a little tense and tough, we're gonna see a lot of opportunity open up because there are so many people that are starting stuff. And again, talking about AI, the ability for us to start stuff on our own is right there in front of us. So I don't know, that gives me a lot of hope about where things are headed.
Thank you. And Stanley, we'll just go right on down.
So I'm going to go back to the words on my shirt. It says, get on, put on. I can't take credit for that. A good friend of mine, John Petty, he started a creative agency called 14th and Market, and I literally watched him. He was working at another agency in Portland. You can take your guess. and he decided to go back home to Philly. And what I thought was really amazing is he went back to Philly and he brought like all these amazing people with him, right? Like people from all over the country are now living in Philly because they trusted in this man. And part of it is because of this philosophy, right? Like he's always said, get on, put on, right? Which means simply, you know, when you're in a position to help someone else, you know, bring them forward, figure out how to help them. And that's always been sort of the cycle that I've seen him do. And I think it's something that I've also tried to apply to myself, you know. And I think like you should always be doing one or the other, right? Like you should be looking for opportunities for yourself, but once you make it, make sure you're bringing other people along. And I think as long as we have that cycle, it helps to create a healthy community, but it also makes sure that the people within that community have access and tools and support so that when they aren't in a position of getting on, you know, they're at least being helped, you know, you can help them, help put them on.
Put people on. Jade, and then Rosanna, briefly.
So I actually have this tattooed on my shoulder. It says, just do the thing. And it's a motto that I've been kind of living by, especially this year. And for the creators in the room, I really want to speak to you guys. I feel like sometimes what happens is that when we are seeing all this content online or in any other content creation spaces, we get overwhelmed because we're like, well, someone already said this. That means I can't say it now either. And I feel like that's actually the worst mindset to have. I want you all to remember that your voice is going to mean so much to someone who you may not even have ever met before. Your perspective has so much value. Your unique story has so much value. And I feel like those are the things that we want to keep sharing as creatives. Anytime you show up online, just because someone else has talked about this topic, doesn't mean that you can't either, because your POV is what's going to make it unique, and that's what it's going to set your content apart from other people's. It's like truly your voice, your experience, your story. And even just touching quickly on what we were talking about with AI, that's the thing that AI does not have, your sauce. So when you are creating, make sure that you're doing it in a way that is, of course, reaching people, but also speaks to people from your perspective. And I feel like that's always what's going to resonate with people in the end. So just do the thing.
Thank you. And bring us home, listener.
Control-Alt+LIFT and +1 your life. Don't do things by yourself. It's really easy for us to lean into our heads and get inside of ourselves. Take on a life where you involve others. Whether you're looking for a job, whether you're in your dream job, just don't go it alone. Invite people into the things you're doing. It becomes a virtuous cycle. It's also a habit, and it's really easy that we become super self-sufficient, in part because we told ourselves, and we were told, you can figure it out yourself, you're smart, you got this. All that is true, but +1 yourself, and you create more power in the process.
Thank you. Everyone, give everyone a round of applause, all the wonderful panelists. Yes, this is your community. Use it, activate it. Also, the LinkedIn Networking Challenge is still on, so make sure you see a LinkedIn person and activate on LinkedIn as well. We'll leave you with that. Enjoy the rest of the event, everyone.